Hi everyone. So I've made a four-way rail intersection here, and I wanted to figure out a way that you just press a button and it sends you to the correct direction you want. Ideally something that doesn't use timing, so you just press the button and you don't have to worry about when you get to the end of the rail, and something that can be overridden so that you can use it from any of the four stations and it would still work. Now, I've seen a bunch of tutorials online, but I don't think any of them have come up with this particular system. So let me walk you through it real quick. So, here's 5 buttons that I have set up. These 5 buttons will activate different segments of this rail over here. So if you power this segment right here, and I put a lamp so that these can be properly visualized when they're activated, when you activate this, the rail will switch from going from this direction to this direction, and it'll switch to go from this direction to this direction. Now here's what I mean. Say that we want to activate this specific one. We'll follow the input wire, see that it's this one, activate it. And now, if you see the redstone torch, it's off. You see the lamp, it's off. And you can see the rail is actually turned to that direction. And we get to go on our merry way. Now, say that we want to go straight through. You'd have to figure out a way to do that. So, the way you would do that is by jumping one of these rail sections. So, if you wanted to jump through here, you'd have to turn this rail segment, but the default state of this one is to turn this way. So, we activate this one, we deactivate this one, so it's in its default state, turn this way. We activate this one so that it flips from that to that, and that would allow us to jump the rail and go straight through. Now watch how we do that. We just press that button, and that tells us we're going straight through. And that's it. That's all we did. Now we follow the rail, you can see, boom, we're on our merry way. Now, this rail system actually allows us to go through all 3 directions with just one press of a button. Now what's important here is I didn't activate anything except one button to pick the direction, and it automatically overrided previous inputs. So let me show you exactly how I did that. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the input wires. The input wires are made in orange wool here so you can properly see them. Now all that's happening is I activate a button, and I've been showing the activated blocks with green wool. You'll see that throughout the wires. So you activate this button, and then it deactivates this torch, which powers this wire, and activates this torch here. So this torch here activates this wire here. Now this wafer design is a bit common when you get more complicated redstone creations, but it's really not that complicated. All it is you've got these like main wires here that need to be activated, and you want to send a signal efficiently. Like, yeah, sure, you just attach a button to this thing, but if you have like multiple different buttons spread out all over the place that need to activate the same wires, the wiring can get really messy quickly. This is just the simplest way of doing it, because this wire can have its own input wire, this button can have its own input wire, and you can just keep adding input wires like this all along and not have to worry about like different things activating the wrong things at different times and it just being a general mess. This is just a cleaner way of doing it. But for now, let's just forget about how all this works and just keep in mind that all we're doing is we're sending a signal across one of these 4 wires. Now these 4 wires just send a signal to a block here, activated in green. That sends a signal to 2 different systems at the same time. This red wire here and this yellow wire here. Now, here's what the red wire does. By default, it blocks this repeater from receiving a signal or sending a signal. So, if the repeater here is on and locked, it keeps the on signal, as you can see here from when we previously activated our button. The repeater is left on, and it's blocked by this other repeater. So the signal is just constantly being sent here, and this thing is permanently on. Now, the idea behind this red wire is to override this lock. So, if we were to activate this red wire only, what that does, as you can see from the redstone torch here, is it deactivates the lock temporarily. Now you can see that the wire, which was powered here, is no longer powered. Basically, the lock has been lifted, which allowed the signal to dissipate, and now it's back into its default state. Now what happens when we send a input signal here, let's say to this one, activates this green block, and then it temporarily releases the lock on this one. Now, what happens also at the same time is the signal gets sent to this yellow wire here, which activates the repeater. Now you might notice that there is a little bit more of a delay on this side than on this side. So what happens is that first the signal gets sent here, and then while it's still on, the signal the lock gets lifted temporarily, which allows the signal to go into this repeater, which very importantly is on max delay. It doesn't work on shorter delays. It has to be on max delay. Then, as it opens up, as this wire opens up this repeater, the signal enters a repeater, and then this, because it's on a short delay, closes the repeater with the signal still inside it because it's on max delay. That keeps this repeater on and sends the signal through to this green block here, which activates the redstone torch, which activates the rail. Now here's that in action. Let's say that we wanted to activate this wire that we've been showing earlier. So thankfully I've set up these green blocks so I can see which wire activates what. So we can see this one activates that wire. Perfect. Let's just click that. Boom. Now you see what happened. The signal went here and in here, and now, ta-da! The signal is locked inside this long delay repeater, thanks to this system. And now this is permanently off. Now because of that, you can press a button, send a signal through, and not have to worry about when you arrive at this place. You can just press the button and that'd be the end of the problem. Say you take like, I don't know, 30 minutes to get to your rail intersection, it's still going to be set up like that. Now, the one thing is that what would happen if you if you wanted to turn right like this? So now you might see a small dilemma. If you wanted to turn right here, the wires need to be in their default state. Now, what you could do for that, to set all the things back to their default state, is just press a button on this like locking wire to release everything, and they're all back in their default state. But you don't actually need to do that. You can activate this wire just by activating another input, and you don't need every single input activated here. If you wanted to turn right here, and say it was locked already in place, let's activate this button. There we go. Now you want to turn right. How do you do that? Well, what you can do is just activate either this one or this one, because they're not necessary to turn this way. You're only going through this intersection and that one. So you can activate either of these two, and it'll allow you to turn this way. So let's activate this left one here that we've been activating. We just click it, bam, and there we go. This one's been released, this one's been locked. Now you just turn over here. Now it doesn't matter that you're not going through this one, because again, you're not passing through it. So you can activate it with no problem. You don't actually need another wire to go through here. But if you absolutely want this like whole system to be released for some reason, like say you got a little bit of OCD and you don't like the fact that once you're through the intersection, it's still set to a specific direction. Well, what you could do is you could just place an activator rail that like slightly before this on a small timer, just like, I don't know, put 2 repeaters or something, and then have it activate this red circuit only. and that'll release the stuff after you pass through it. And that's really all there is to that. Now, I'll show you a little bit more closely how this particular system works. Okay, so here is a smaller version of what we have over there. All it is one single torch that needs to be toggled. So what happens is we just press this button. This is our input. And then ta-da! It's been toggled off. Now, if we want to turn it back on, we press this other button here, and it turns it on. Now, importantly, pressing this button repeatedly doesn't turn it back off, so it's not an XOR gate. Just like how pressing this button keeps it on. It's also not exactly an RS NOR latch, just because of how it's designed. I guess you could consider it a bit of an RS NOR latch, but anyways, here is how it works, very simply. You send a signal here, this block activates and sends a signal to the yellow and red wires. The yellow wire sends a signal to this long repeater here, and then it enters that. Now, we're going to break this real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. So, we say that we activate the yellow wire, enters the repeater, bada bing, bada boom. Now, if we do that, this thing keeps it on, it's locked. So, the signal isn't getting through. We have to release that lock. But we want the signal to go in here and be locked in place. So we have a very slight delay, which is, well, we need this repeater here to activate it, but this also provides a slight delay along with this redstone torch. So what happens when we activate the red wire here? What happens, wire activates, inverts this, releases, and then turns this off, releasing the lock. Now what we do is that we release the lock while the signal is still being sent to him, to allow the signal in, and then once the signal is in, can activate this thing and the signal locks back down again. Now watch what I mean. Now, I know that was a little fast, but I hope you were able to see exactly what's going on there. If you couldn't, I'll try to help a little bit. I'll add a delay to each of them. It's going to be an equal size delay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. It's in default state right now. So, I'm going to put that away. Let's press this button. Boom. There you have it. Hope that was helpful. And I'll show you one more time, just so you can really see it. There we go. First, let's release this. And now, boom. So signal gets sent. There you go. Now, I hope you saw that correctly. The signal went in here, and then got locked in place by him. And now it's stuck there. To release it, you just press the red button, and it's released. And that's how you basically make this whole system here. That red wire is the same. This is the locking wire. All it does basically is it takes the input and it shares it across. Now it's important that these are all connected, because you don't want to have just, say, this one activating this repeater here, because you would have just that little tiny system over there. What you want is that no matter which button you press, it releases all of the other ones. So it basically overrides previous inputs. So I hope that this little tutorial for how to make a better four-way rail intersection has been helpful. If you want, this system can definitely be redesigned a little bit, but the basic logic is there. Like if you wanted, for example, you could have this part go under, you could have a different input design. What's important is just that you have the little system as designed over there. That just shows the basics of how this works. Hope you enjoyed it. Adios.